Okay, so now we're going to install the Unity input system. If you ever see this error here about ADB, that just means you've been starting and restarting Unity over and over again, and sometimes the debugging service in the back end gets confused, so you can just clear it out. So all of these windows might be a bit confusing, but first we're going to get you set up, and then we're going to explain how to use the windows. And I do that because that way what I'm showing you matches what you've installed. If I show you first and things slightly change, it's like, what did he do? So there's two basic input systems to Unity. The first one is the old input system, where you had to say if the user is using the keyboard and mouse, and if they press the A button or slide the mouse to the right or press the middle mouse button, you get it, it's a mess. Then they also had to say, well, if they happen to be on an Xbox controller, and then they press these buttons or do those things, and so on, you get the message. The new input system separates the hardware from the game, so using it in your game is much easier. Setting it up can be complicated. That's why we're giving you a starter kit. The new input system basically has a pop-up window, which we'll show you later on, where you can say, let's make a scenario for keyboard and mouse. Let's make a scenario for the Oculus headset. Let's make a scenario where they're on the PC, but they're using the Xbox controller. You get the idea. And then you can say, pulling the right trigger on the Xbox controller is fire. You can do the same thing on the Oculus headset, and on the keyboard you can say if they're on the keyboard, they hit the F button for fire, or you can make it the enter button. You can do anything you want. You can map it. The game doesn't care what keys or buttons you hit. The game just gets the user said fire, and that's what we're going to be doing here. Is we're going to be using the new input system, so we don't have to worry about a lot of the hardware. And there's kind of an exception. These games that I'm showing you how to build will run on the PC on Windows 10 and Windows 11. They'll run in PC VR mode, which means if you plug your virtual reality headset into the PC, then on your virtual reality headset you'll be in the game. These will run on the Oculus headset native, so you can download it. Now that's a video that I'll be providing as a separate one, which is part of this class. You can create your application so that it runs as a web application. So you can put it on a website and people can play it on the web. Again, a separate video that's included with this class. The web system doesn't really seem to support the new input system. So in this starter kit, I have a lot of that old input system in there. So if you're building for the web, it'll use the old input system. So I know that sounds confusing, just trust me. So right now we're going to install the new input system, but we're going to tell Unity to use both, and let's get started. From the Unity screen, you've already installed a layout, and hopefully you're using RiverExplorer layout so you won't get confused. You'll go to Window Package Manager. The Package Manager is the tool that allows you to add a lot of your stuff to your projects directory down here. And then there's the Unity registry, which is free assets that you can get from Unity itself. There's in project, which is kind of a lie. A lot of times you'll add a public asset and it doesn't show up in my project. I'm not quite sure what my project means, but that's kind of what it's supposed to mean. Built in are the ones that were installed when you installed Unity. There's not much you can do about those. There might be an upgrade button occasionally, but that's rare. The last one is My Assets, and as you can see I have quite a number of them. It'll only load the first 25 or so, but you can say all and it will download a lot of assets that I have. Right now we're interested in Unity Registry, and then up here in the search bar we're going to type input, and it's going to say the input system. Now you may have a download button here. I've already downloaded it, but if not, you download it and then you press install. So I'm going to press install and you have to install it on each game. It doesn't, just because you've installed it for Unity doesn't mean it knows you want it for your particular game. So you have to install it for any particular game you want to use it in. And this doesn't take too long. It will reboot the Unity editor once, I think. And it's pretty quick here. What else am I going to say on this topic? Well, we're on our way. There we go. This project is using the new input system package. Do you want to enable the back end? Doing so will restart the editor. Yes, you want to enable what we just installed. I don't know why you would ever say no, but they ask you. And then it rethinks. And then it restarts the game. And there in the background you can see this slide presentation I'm making. But it's not really a secret because that's what I'm going to show you. In fact, behind that is even the final game in the background, although the character down here might be slightly different. Here we go. It's coming back up. Now we can close the package manager window. We're not going to be using it. And then we're going to go to Edit up here on the main menu bar. Project Settings. We're going to go to Player. All this other stuff we'll be teaching you later. Much of it, some of it we're not because it's really advanced. And up here you select what you're going to call yourself. You could use your name or your company. If you created an organization when you created your Unity ID, you can enter that in here. I did. I call it RiverExplorer, mine. You'll use your own. I'm going to call this my first project. The version is often 0.1. The versions often work like all versions start with 0 are usually pre-release versions in the world. There's internet standards which are there's world standards, like an inch is a standard, a meter is a standard. It's a fixed length. There's another word in the software industry that they sometimes use the word standard, but they mean the word convention. And convention is this is something people conventionally use. Like it's kind of a unspoken but common rule, like the ASWD. I don't think there's an industry standard on that, so it's a software convention that they use that. Okay, and so 0 is typically the pre-release, and then each time you make a major build and want someone else to see it, you increment this number. You can increment to whatever you want. Sometimes people put a third number out there, which means the build number or something, whatever. We're just going to do 0.1 for the first one. There's a lot of things in here, so we want to change something really quick for the game. Resolution and presentation. It comes up in full screen mode, which sounds fun, except for there's no way to kill the program because it doesn't have the window bars around it. So for this class, we're going to go to Windowed. Make sure that there's a bunch. You may have less items here than I do, but make sure Settings for Windows, Mac, and Linux is checked. This is for Android. This is for dedicated server. Make sure this one is set. And then go here and make sure that this is checked. Resizable window. That way you can change the size of the window. In your final game, you'll have a menu that they bring up and they can press the quit button. But for the first development part of this game, we're not going to have one. And if the game came up full screen, good luck closing it because there's no close bar. This white bar isn't there at all. And then the next thing we're going to do is go to Other Settings. Leave this at mono in .NET Standard 2.1. I can explain that later. Here on Active Input Handling. I guess it's by default set to both. If you are not going to ever develop on the web, you would set it to New, and it would only build for the new input system. Because this class does the web and Windows and the Oculus, we're going to set it to both just to make sure, and it doesn't hurt. If you set it to both but never use the web, it doesn't hurt anything. It makes your program a little larger, but it's not like it's a big error. And that should be sufficient to get us through this particular phase here. So now we have it set up so we can use both input systems. So that's going to end this video. And then the next step, we're going to install the starter kit, which will actually have a mini, not fancy, but mini little game in it.